Well, look, today I'm very excited. Sam's one of my old teammates. I've known her a very, very long time. And I guess just watching from the sidelines, your career path and where you've gotten to has been really, really lovely, actually. And awesome too. So very proud of you. And that's why today I get to interview you and talk a bit about your incredible career. So we're just going to start with a few highlights, obviously. So WNBL life member, um, 259 games, won three championships. Were they all with Adelaide or one with Dandenong?
One with Dandenong, yeah. Two with Adelaide, one with Dandenong.
And then as a coach, a SEABL NBL1 champion, three-time champion, and three-time Coach of the Year awards through ABA. Was it ABA or ABL? SEABL and NBL1.
Yep. Awesome. Well, Loz, thank you for having me. Loz, LJ, Goat. I think I'll just refer to you as Goat. And you can't delete that. Yeah. Um, God, I was actually thinking today, Loz, of the first time I met you. I think like you were 14 years old and came into one of our GEMS camps. And I still remember it to this day. I was like, this girl is going to kill everyone, and you have, and it's amazing. So super proud of you. Obviously, knowing you as a 14-year-old girl, and obviously we haven't had a lot to do with each other playing against each other in the WNBL, but to watch your journey has been incredible and continues to be incredible.
Yes, it has been, Sammy. And you know what? I have to say, you've actually been one of my fondest fondest memories, fondest teammates from back in the day. I've really felt you were so lovely as one of the older girls to me, and I really appreciate that. And I think it's one of the things that I'll probably always remember about you is just how kind you were to me when I was very young and very scared as going into that program. Anyway, digressing again.
Yes.
You were also at the AIS, right? As well. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess my I know we're going to concentrate on coaching, but I guess like my playing the way I got into playing basketball was a little bit different to those who, continued to play in the WNBL because I didn't, like many players, I started playing netball and I actually didn't pick up a basketball until I was like 16 years old when my family moved. And then the friends that I made when we moved to Adelaide played basketball. And then literally it was such a whirlwind from there to get to the AIS. I think I went to my first, like Australian Junior Championships at under 18s, and then there was an athlete that got injured and didn't take up her scholarship. I can't remember who it was, but then I got a late call up to the AIS, and it all kind of went from there. So very quick, and then I was at the AIS.
Yeah, that's awesome. The Gems too in those days were under 21s, right? I think now they're under 19s. Is that correct? I can't remember, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So there was that little bit more of a upper age. And I think Kristen and I came into that squad when we were both like 13 or 14. So it was a big age gap between all of us then. Anyway, but that's awesome. So you went from there to Adelaide or Danny?
Adelaide.
Yeah, and
Yeah. So there to Adelaide, played under Jen Sterling with, the likes of like Rachel Spawn, Carla Boyd, Joe Hill, Jay Kingy. So that was really amazing as well to have those kind of females as mentors for because I was like 18, so probably not young when we think about the age of girls that are playing in the WNBL today, but at that stage it was quite young to go into like a Jan Sterling program. You've been coached by her, hard nose coach, and I've at the time you probably think geez, she's so hard on me. But, at the end of the day, she just wanted the best out of you. And then, yeah, played in Adelaide for a few seasons. And then I went to Europe for 5 years. So I think, my probably played my best basketball when I was in Europe and really enjoyed that experience. Then I came back to Adelaide again and then captained them, won another championship. And then the last 2 years of my playing career, I played for Dandenong.
what inspired you to sort of head on over to coaching?
Good question. I think I kind of forced, but also fell into it. I think because of on most teams I played on, LJ, I was captain. So I guess, you're that on-court coach anyway. And so, I don't know, secretly, I probably enjoyed telling people what to do. So I actually started coaching when I was still playing. So when I was playing for the Lightning, I was also playing in the Central ABA for West Adelaide, so the Mighty Bearcats. And my assistant coach of the Lightning at the time was the head coach of the Bearcats team. And we won the championship, and then literally he just said to me, I think that you'll be a fantastic coach and you're going to coach this team next year. So that was my entry into coaching, was in that player coaching role. And to be honest, today it might be a little bit different because obviously the game's evolved a little bit, but I found being a player coach so much easier than actually sitting on the sidelines and coaching, because you could really in huddles you could address things and things like that. So it kind of I enjoyed being a player coach. Now I probably, if I was still playing, I couldn't do it in today's game, but back then it worked.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I often thought about that being a player coach and because but how do you feel like were you able to see everything a little bit clearer because you're in it, or was it hard to see what was sort of going on and make sort of decisions quickly?
Yeah. I think probably hard to see everything that was going
Yeah.
on the court, but now being obviously just sitting on the sideline full time now, you obviously see a lot more of the
Yeah.
game. So probably more, not as much detail, I think, when you're a player coach as just to a coach sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah. And what do you think the most sort of rewarding thing has been like in the coaching? Is it the awards? Is it like the progression? Being respected now as like a male coach as well. That's something pretty special as a female.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and it's not the individual accolades, right? I mean, yourself, you play for the team, whether that's if you're playing or you're coaching. So I think the big thing for me that I'm most proud of is probably most recently, like moving across to the men's program. To be honest, like the first couple of seasons that I coached Dandenong was tough, very under-resourced club in terms of where they sit in the NBL1 South pecking order, which is obviously improving now with things that have been put in place. But, I stepped into a situation, and I guess this is kind of when we can talk about being a female coach. I stepped into a situation that I knew wasn't the best for me personally, and probably wasn't putting myself in a situation to succeed. But at the same time, throughout my playing career, I knew nothing other than hard work and how to outsmart someone because I wasn't blessed with I wasn't the fastest, I wasn't the most skilled, but I think during my playing days I made my career out of being smarter and like having a high basketball IQ. So I guess I knew from my playing days and knowing the player that I was, I knew I could transfer that over to coaching. But I walked into that Dandenong program a week before the season started, so that came with its whole lot of challenges. As there was players on the team that, one didn't come to the club to play for me, and two probably weren't accepting of being coached by a female. So it was super super tough. But at the same time, I knew that I literally gave myself 3 seasons, which was this past season was my third season where I could, because I had a vision and I knew what needed to be done, but it was so difficult in terms of, and you know me, I'm not the kind of person that really gives a, can I swear, gives a crap about what people think of me, but also I think I heard the noise a lot more because a part of me was representing all female coaches, right? So if I failed, then
Yeah.
teams and management were going to be reluctant to hire another female coach in that position. But, lucky we got through and kind of turned the program around by, instilling a culture that was needed. And the NBL1 just keeps getting stronger and stronger. So we basically came from second last 2 seasons ago to making the finals this year. So I think that this past 3 seasons is something that I'm most proud of. Obviously coaching on the women's side was super successful team wise as well. But yeah, I think this last 3 seasons is I've definitely grown and I've come out the other end a lot better for it.
Yeah, that's incredible actually. Just going back to that first season, like how did you kind of bridge that gap with the athletes that weren't necessarily happy with you, a female, albeit someone who had profile, who's been a player, great player, and a coach? How did you deal with that with the athletes?
Um, Good question. It was definitely, and I think it comes down a little bit to my coaching philosophy, is that I like to create an environment where everyone feels valued and everyone has a voice. But a big part of that also is the relationships that I'm creating with players. So I think at the start, that's what I really focused on. Like I wasn't focusing on I need to win games because I had absolutely no pressure on the club to win games. They were aware of the situation as well, but the biggest thing I focused on was creating that rapport with the playing group. I feel, and not just about basketball, I feel it's important to get to know your players, off the court, what they think their strengths and weaknesses are, like the backgrounds that they come from, because that, one creates that relationship and it builds trust, but it also allows me to get the best out of players because a lot of coaches might disagree with this, but you can't coach everyone the same.
Yeah.
If you want them to be successful, you cannot do that. So I think that is kind of where I navigated. Like, to be honest, I fired a couple of players. Like, I had to. But I also think as much as you don't want to be in those situations, I'm not afraid of confrontation, I guess. And I just knew that it wasn't going to work. And those players, and, some of it wasn't even anything to do with me. It was just the way that they were relating to the younger players on the team, and I was just like, this, you got to go. Like it's not working, it's not going to work. So yeah, there was tough decisions, but I guess it was about building those relationships. And some of those players are still playing for me today, so not many of them, but there's a couple that really bought into what I'm doing, and they're still a part of the program.
That's incredible, Sam. Okay, I'll get back to the questions. Okay, are you sort of aiming higher? Do you want to become, the first head coach of an NBL club? Is that something that is on your aspiration list?
Yeah, I do. And I know I did an interview with the NBL1 during last season where I said my aspirations were to become an assistant coach in the NBL, where that's probably not the case, to be honest. Like I want to be the first. I've never been an assistant coach before. So, the taste that I have of being a part of the coaching staff with the Taipans has been invaluable for me in the learning experiences. Like if we speak about 40 and his path to becoming a head coach in the NBL is really quite remarkable, and that's become like, he's one of the hardest work, well, probably the hardest working coach that I've ever met. And, attention to detail and the processes and all of that stuff is definitely being a learning experience for me, and giving me valuable insights to how he operates and how he manages a team. But I think it also became clear to me, has become clear to me during the time with the Taipans, is that I can definitely be a head coach in the NBL.
Yeah, definitely. That we're all going to be cheering for that. So we'll be from our end. I think that's incredible. Um, yeah, and there has to be a first, and you have to be the first, right? Like that's what it comes down to. Why do you think that, I mean, obvious gender bias with women, but why do you think that there aren't more women sort of aspiring to that level in coaching men?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's like, historical gender roles and stereotypes that you spoke about when, historically basketball is about masculinity or any male sport, and people think that only men can lead men. Which, I am noticing a shift. I have to admit there is a shift, but I feel that there's a huge lack of representation and role models for females. Like, I kind of did a little bit of research before talking to you on females that have led high performance elite professional men's teams. And I think especially on the basketball side, like obviously there's been assistant coaches, but thinking about head coaches, I think Liz Mills is the only female that's head coached a national team at a FIBA event, right? And yeah, there's been like a handful of assistant coaches in the NBL, and obviously, Becky Hammond with in the NBA and things like that. But I just think that representation matters, and I I also think that maybe there's not a lot of females that are confident enough or have had the correct pathways and mentorship and all everything that comes along with that to have the confidence to put their hand up for these roles. But you know, there's also the decision makers in sport are male. So there needs to be, you know, and the same as what we speak about, like I think that there's still that feeling that women do not have like the authority or understanding to be able to inspire men to get to for them to reach their fullest potential. And 100% believe that that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's absolutely got nothing to do with gender, but you know, it's creating like pathways for women, providing the support. Like LJ, if I didn't have like the support that I do right now from my mentors, from my family, from friends, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. And I think a lot of females don't have those resources. And then obviously, you know, there's the family side of it as well. It's not, I think, like on the women's side of things, it's gotten better in terms of like with the WNBL and, you know, accommodating for mothers who still want to continue to play and having those support in place. But that's something that's not happening on the men's side of things, but only because it hasn't had to happen. There's been no female coach for it to happen. So I think we just need to keep advocating for women, creating pathways for women, providing them with support. Yeah, because as I said, representation matters, and there's very few of us right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said before, it's, going to be awesome to watch your journey. And I truly believe that once you do it, there's going to be a lot of women coming in behind you, trying to look for that sort of mentoring and support from you as well. But you're a very strong woman to do what you're doing, and we're very proud of you here. Um, Okay, so along the same lines, but not necessarily, like what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a coach in your career? Not just the men's league or the women's league, like just in general.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me would be when I first started coaching because I stopped playing WNBL and literally went straight into the coaching role with Kilsyth in what was SEABL back then. And the biggest challenge for me, and to be honest, I've been quite lucky. I haven't had a lot of challenges. Like obviously, you know, there's small things that come up with, you know, managing court time and things like that that come as a part of it, working in a team environment. But I think the biggest thing for me, and I had to adjust, is that I saw the game very differently than the women I was coaching. So, you know, coming from the WNBL, that slight drop down, I'd give instructions and then, you know, the team would go out and they wouldn't understand what I was saying. I guess that's to put it simply. So I think I had to really adjust in, okay, not other and everyone understands the game the same. I need to, you know, are they visual learners or are they going to learn just from like my voice and all things like that that you don't really think about as a player, right? You just kind of follow a coach's instruction and you don't know whether maybe the coach also did these things to work out how to coach you in the best way. But that was probably the biggest. It really frustrated me, to be honest, at the start because I was like, why are they not doing what I'm saying? Like they're not getting it. So I had to really you know, that's, I think, where my mentality of you can't coach everyone the same comes from because people don't understand things the same. So that was probably the biggest challenge that I had when I first started coaching.
Yeah, no, and differently. What's really interesting to even when I was playing NBL1 for Albury, the intensity level drops like from the WNBL to the NBL1. It's like, oh my God, you're not training hard. No wonder we're not winning games, and
Yeah.
I think there is that perception. Like I don't know whether the kids in NBL1 actually realize how hard they have to train every single day, if they really want to reach that level. Like they think that they should be at that level, but it's completely different. So,
Yeah. 100% agree.
and then yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it now.
Okay.
Um, Okay, building team culture, and you kind of touched on this earlier, but I think like how do you foster those relationships? And you talked about, really focusing on them that first year in Dandenong. But yeah, fostering trust and collaboration amongst players. I think that's a really important one for new coaches to sort of understand and learn.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you and I both know, like, I think about coaches that I played under and hindsight's a great thing, but I think it's also been so beneficial to have some wonderful coaches throughout my playing career and then some not so great coaches throughout my playing career and really like being able to take bits and pieces from each of them and really like obviously they've shaped the coach that I am. But I guess it just when it comes to culture, I think this is an interesting question to me when it comes to a coach because I think it's very, very you need to have buy-in from the team. So I
Mm.
think obviously you can set those expectations. Obviously, I spoke about relationships being the key. You can have, I believe in open and transparent communication. As I said, I'm not afraid to have, those confrontational conversations, which obviously a lot of people don't like at the time, but obviously it's helping teams grow and yourself grow as an individual. But I can rant and rave in front of my team about my expectations and, the do's and don'ts. But I just feel that essentially that culture, I can, give them tips and set the foundations, but you have to have the right people in your team to build that culture. And I
Yeah.
think that's, I spoke about my struggles at Dandenong the first couple of years that was what I was building to. Like I knew I had to get rid of some players that weren't going to buy into that, didn't want to work hard. All those expectations that I had weren't going to be met. So it was a process of okay, who is going to get on board and really drive this culture from within the group, not just from me. So I think building culture is obviously having those relationships, the lines of communication, creating that environment where everyone feels valued and safe. But at the end of the day, it's the players that you have on your team that really need to drive that culture.
Yeah. So I guess along though the same sort of lines, the difference between what sort of separates the good coaches from the great coaches or the not so great coaches from the coaches from the great coaches. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect question because I think great coaches have skills beyond the X's and O's, right? Obviously, you still need to have that attention to detail and the technical aspects of the game. But I feel that when I think about great coaches, the difference to me is the connections and probably emotional intelligence, actually. That's probably a great way of describing it. I think great coaches have emotional intelligence where one, they can control their own emotions because I'm also a big believer in a team plays the way a coach coaches
Yeah.
and off their emotions. So, if you're a coach that's like emotion based and not good at controlling your emotions, then that transfers onto the court to your team. So I think knowledge of the game needs to be matched by your ability to teach the game
Yeah.
and how you kind of deliver that. But I guess, yeah, so the emotional intelligence side of the thing, obviously having like self-awareness, social skills, empathy, excellent communication. And we're not going to talk about like obviously individual coaches that we've both had, but I've been coached by some coaches that can't communicate or won't communicate. And I think a lot of players are just, even if it's not positive, it's probably half the time not positive communication or feedback that you're hearing. Well, let's go with constructive. It's constructive. But I know a lot of coaches that I've coached for don't want to have those conversations. And I think that's a huge thing for me, what separates a good coach and a great coach or a bad coach and a good coach. Obviously leading by example and being able to inspire people as well. I think good coaches lead, but great coaches inspire, if that makes sense. Um, and I think just also the love of the game. Like I've also been coached by coaches that half the time I didn't think they even wanted to be there. So I think it's like fully engaged, having a love for the game, continual learning. Great coaches continue to learn. And the other thing for me is also is something that I think that I is probably still a work in progress as well. But I think I do a good job of being open to feedback. Like I'm not always right, and I'm not the one that's on the court. So, my team, don't get me wrong, not everyone can come in and we're at practice and everyone's like barking orders and yelling at each other and trying to give their opinion on everything. But, in a controlled environment, I like to give the players on my team a voice where they can say, make suggestions or, tell me that they don't think something is working. So then you can kind of adjust from there. So yeah, I think to sum it up, because I kind of ranted then, sorry.
No,
I think it's beyond, I think it's beyond the court.
yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
yeah.
No, I think you summed that up perfectly. I think too, like I've been on teams where people have had like just a fundamental lack of respect for difference, like and not I guess when you talk about getting to know your players and your people around you, and that this is in business as well, like
Yeah. Yeah.
professional
Yeah.
form of life. But if you don't actually respect human beings, like even the ones you don't like or don't agree with, then you're not going to succeed in a team environment, and I think that's part of everything that you just said. So,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Like, and I mean, I've had coaches as well who only speak to their like main players. Like, how do you feel? How would you feel as like, the eighth, ninth, 10th player walking into a team environment every day and your coach doesn't even acknowledge you? Like that kind of stuff is just, it's wild to me that it's allowed to happen, but I'm sure it's still happening today.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think at all levels of the sport too, that's pretty common, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Um, how do you handle balancing player development alongside the pressure to win basketball games?
Oh, yeah, good question. I think it goes a little bit back to that cultural piece that we were speaking about, where you don't base your culture, like your culture is doesn't define success by just the wins. So you can define success by growth as well. I think, focusing on, and I actually don't like this saying, but focusing on the process over the outcome is a
Love it.
huge, yeah, I do love the saying, but I don't like it coming out of my mouth. I guess that's what I mean. It's a little bit cliche for me, but I think, yeah, obviously those two things, because I mean, oh, LJ, probably you and me both, like we hate to lose, right?
Um,
And that's probably when you asked me before, the biggest learnings is that you can't win all the time. And it's very, very hard to win championships in any kind of team sport. So I guess it's like, as I said, both growth and performance are success. But even like I think about, you know, and it kind of got on my nerves a little bit last season where everyone was like, "Oh, you did so well." And inside I was like furious because I was like, "Well, we made the finals, but we lost a semi-final to a team that we should have beaten, and I'm not coaching this team to make the finals." Like it was just that was a battle in my head at the time. And I guess now that I've stepped away a little bit and had some time to reflect, I'm like, oh, okay, well, there was a lot of growth and there was a lot of success along the way. So I need to be happy with that. But I won't be happy until, we're talking about NBL1 right now, coaching that. I won't be happy until we win a championship. Um, but I think the other thing about like development is working out like in-game play and being strategic with substitution and playing time, like knowing when and where you can, insert players that need development and those younger players at times of the game that are not going to sacrifice winning. I guess that's an easy way to put it. But I think the other side of that as well is like it's very, very hard, especially at the NBL1, where you have two practice sessions a week and then a couple of games on the weekend or one game on the weekend. It's quite hard to develop players during season, but I spend a lot of time on individual development on court as well. So we're doing individual sessions like 3 or 4 times a week for those that want to do it and that can do it, where and that's just not grab a ball and let's get some shots up. It's like obviously tailored sessions for what those players need to work on to get more game time and to continue their development. And yeah, I mean, there's a whole whole range of things we do. Obviously, then you can do film, like, you can break down film and do some development in there as well. But I think when it comes to the NBL1, I think I don't know if I think if you can manage people's expectations, and when I speak about people, I'm speaking about club management, board members. Why aren't you winning? And it's like they have to have a full understanding, and you have to be quite transparent with, I think it's quite public knowledge in like different budgets that are in the NBL1 South. So it's like if you manage those expectations, then I guess there's not so much pressure to win from the outside or from the group, but there's always pressure on myself from myself to win.
Yeah. So this is another kind of loaded question, I suppose, and you can think about it from NBL1 perspective, like WNBL, NBL, whatever it is, but or community. Okay. Thinking of your kids and their
Yep.
progression through the sport. Um, what do you think that clubs and associations can actively do to help support women getting these roles, coaching roles, and then continuing through that pathway?
Yeah. How long do we have for this question?
Um,
No, I'll summarize what I think, right? Because I mean, we're speaking about obviously we've been focusing on myself being a minority coaching men's sport, but it still really bothers me, and as I'm sure it bothers you and a lot of other people, that even like for in the WNBL, like how many female coaches are there? So that's still coaching female sports is still male dominated as well. So I guess it's creating a system, I don't know if that's the right word, where women have equal opportunities to access like opportunities, resources, recognition. I don't think we promote women I mean, playing as well. This goes on both sides, right? Playing and coaching. I don't think we promote women as role models like we need to. So obviously visibility is a powerful tool, and I feel that clubs and associations really need to promote the female coaches, not only coaches, like administrators, sorry, volunteers, referees, players, whatever that is. I think we really need to do a better job of making these women visible, because there's some amazing women that are working in all areas of sport. So that's one, creating obviously the women, like showcasing women as role models. Investing, we love that word, investing like in development, a developmental pathway for women coaches. So there's the same as what we talk about females dropping out of playing. A lot of females drop out of coaching because they don't have the support network, or there's not a clear pathway for them, I guess, in terms of coaching, whether it's women or men's sports. So I don't know, creating mentorships, networking opportunities. Like I know a lot of, obviously on the male side of things, I know a lot of my coaching peers probably have a group of other male coaches that they're networking with all the time, and they've got that as a support system as well. But I still feel that women need to be supported.
Yeah.
Anyone that's coaching needs to be supported, right? But I feel there's a lack of support for women who want to aspire to coach professional sports.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, LJ. I know that you have a million thoughts on this as well, but I think it's pretty simple. I think it's a pretty simple fix.
Mm.
We just need clubs and associations that are going to invest their time into doing these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, it is simple. I think, and when we talk about it and we break it down, I think it's one of those things where you can pinpoint like a couple of things that would make a difference, but it's just whether or not people will accept those differences. And
Yeah.
Sam actually makes a really good point, is that, we do have a lot of leadership programs for women to, go through high performance coaching, whatever it is, but then often the pathways are not there because they're being taken up by men with really good resumes. They may not have done a lot of great things in the sport, but they've got really good resumes. They look good because they've been given opportunities and they can put it on their resume. And then the women that we're upskilling are missing out on these opportunities. And I think that, um, moving the needle, trying to change that process from happening is like giving women the opportunities over people that have been in the sport for a long time, but that have good resumes, that
Yeah.
time to like bring some new people in, bring new faces in, change the needle.
Yeah, 100%. And as you said at the start of the call, there just needs to be one, right? And we spoke about I strongly believe that the NBL is in the best position and have the people that are inclusive, like, inclusive of women. They have women in leadership roles, like in like obviously their office environment. I feel that they are the league that's most likely to have the first female head coach. I strongly, strongly believe that. But when you talk about resumes and things like that, when we need to move the needle, what we need to move the needle to is when comparing a male or a female coach, is that if they have this, I feel that even if a woman right now today is a little more qualified and is more successful than the man she's going up against, they're still going to give it to that
Yeah.
male. Okay, because that's the historical, that's the norm, women stay in your lane type, language that we all love to hear. But yeah, we just need one.
Yep. We need you. We need you,
I'm
Sammy.
happy for it to be me.
I want it to be you. You're amazing. Okay, the last question for you, and we'll stop punishing you with this, is if you could give yourself one piece of advice, like back at the start, what would it be as a
Yeah.
coach?
Yeah, probably a little bit what we touched on in talking about not striving for perfection, and that focus on the progress that you're making, I guess. So it's not all about winning, but it's about the progress that myself personally is making, but also the players that I'm coaching. Because, to me, I guess as if I think about players on my team that I've coached, that I'm still girls that I coached at Kilsyth. I still have really, great relationships with them, and we see each other for coffee or dinner or things like that. But it's not coaching to me isn't just about what happens on the floor. Like, I want to make a difference to everyone's life that I coach off the floor as well. So I guess that didn't really tell you what my advice is, but I guess not striving, instead of striving for perfection, focus on progress. There you go. That's what it is.
It's a progress, it's a process. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Oh, well, you're amazing. And look, thank you. We'll wrap it up there because we only had half an hour. But I really appreciate the chat with you. And I'm hoping that we can do some more stuff with you in the future, just in terms of like around probably networking, mentoring, a little bit of that stuff. I think you'd be just someone incredible for people to listen to.
Yeah, perfect. And yeah, I'm more than happy to yeah, get involved wherever I can. Like, and honestly, like, hearing your words of support too, like, that, it means so much to me. So I truly appreciate
Yep,
it.
number one PL coach in Australia. Let's do it.
Do
We're going
it. I'll hire you as the GM. That's what we need, Loz. We need you as the GM.
women in those roles. That's
Yep.
absolutely lovely. Well, look, take care, and I
Thank
really
you
appreciate everything
too.
you've done. We're going to be watching with just eager anticipation and cannot wait to celebrate you.
Amazing. Thank you. And I hope I see you sometime soon in person.
Sounds good, babe. Will do.